Even Sarah Palin knows this one. Anwar is a refuge in Alaska. Bagram is an air base in Afghanistan. And they're really far apart, about 5,000 miles. Now, you could, excuse such a lapse if he weren't running to be the next president of the United States of America, or if he hadn't devoted the lion's share of his campaign, his candidacy, criticizing President Joe Biden. But now that Donald Trump is running against Vice President Kamala Harris, his concerns or worries or talk about age are gone. Old news. So I guess he thinks we are to ignore him when he says stuff like this.
They didn't correct her once, and they corrected me everything I said practically, and I think 9 times or 11 times. And the audience was absolutely, they went crazy. And the real, I thought it was, I walked off, I said, that was a great debate. I loved it.
They went crazy? Were they okay? There wasn't an audience. No one went crazy because there wasn't an audience. Hear it for yourself, the way his fans whipped up into a frenzy when he walked onto stage.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage, Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both.
There's no audience. No one went crazy. Now, when Democrats were confronted with, it wasn't the same situation, but something analogous, when there were doubts about whether their candidate was able to beat Donald Trump, they did a dramatic and extraordinary and unprecedented thing. They made a change. But Republicans appear to only be more enthralled to a man who says stuff like this.
So you have millions of gallons of water pouring down from the north with the snow caps in Canada and all pouring down. And they have essentially a very large faucet. And you turn the faucet, and it takes 1 day to turn it. It's massive. It's as big as the wall of that building right there behind you. And you turn that, and all of that water goes aimlessly into the Pacific. And if they turned it back, all of that water would come right down here and right into Los Angeles. They wouldn't have to have people not use more than 30 gallons and 32 gallons. They want to do that, they're trying to do that. And you have so much water, and all those fields that are right now barren, the farmers would have all the water they needed. And you could revert water up into the hills where you have all the dead forests, where the forests are so brittle.
Big, giant faucet that takes a whole day to turn, that you could put up in the hills and solve everything. It's kind of amazing, right? When you watch that we didn't stop everything, stop traffic, just stop. Say, what was that? It's amazing that no one in California, or Trump himself, for that matter, his first term, thought to turn the big faucet on or off, right? A lot of forest fires, seemingly needlessly. And it is enough to make you laugh, right? If we weren't 47 days out from the most important presidential election of our lives. It's according to Vice President Harris. So Trump's public deterioration cannot be a punchline for the next 47 days. It must be a wake-up call. It's where we start the hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. NBC News correspondent Von Hilliard is in Washington, D.C. for us ahead of Trump's event. Also joining us, MSNBC columnist and contributor Charlie Sykes is here. And with me at the table for the hour, the host of the On Brand podcast, Donnie Deutsch. Von Hilliard, I start with you. You're there and you're seeing this. Interestingly, and I got a tip from someone at Fox News that they had stopped carrying his rallies about 5 months ago. Tell me about the push and pull and how much of this right-wing media is comfortable and uncomfortable broadcasting.
Right, and it kind of my role is, right, I'm not the psychologist, but as a reporter, I think one of the conversations that I'm often engaged in is the extent to which Donald Trump is intentionally distorting facts or whether he is truly confused about what the facts are. And I think when you're listening to his rallies or listening to his remarks, oftentimes it is trying to decipher what that blurry line is and the extent to which it's intentional versus actual confusion. And that is where I will cite the former administration officials that worked closely with him, from two of his former secretaries of defense to former secretary of state to former two national security advisors to him, who have questioned Donald Trump's judgment and the extent to which he would respond erratically to situations. And we have seen that he has increasingly been surrounded by an operation that is not one that necessarily pushes back and engages in a conversation about the truth and the facts, but one that has allowed him to live in sort of a distorted reality. And that is where you see Mike Pence not backing him and not endorsing him. And I think that oftentimes, Donald Trump, who is really his chief communications director, chief strategist, a lot of this plays out in real time in his social media account. And as somebody who follows him on his Truth Social account, he often is posting at 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m. I will say, I'm oftentimes awake at those hours, too. I try not to tweet at those hours as much, but oftentimes they come out in all caps, like last night when he said that Kamala Harris, the current vice president and its Democratic rival, should resign out of disgrace and over the Iran hacking incident. And I think that, again, our job as reporters is sometimes trying to discern exactly the line between Donald Trump through that social media post of whether he has a good understanding of the facts at play that the Department of Justice laid out to him in his campaign and to the public versus intentional distortion versus actual confusion. I think that is for Donald Trump, and our role as journalists is so often the most difficult job in trying to discern.
Ron, you do it better than just about anybody on the beat. I know you have to leave us, but just quickly, what does the campaign say is the reason for him taking and talking about cognitive tests as often as he does?
Sorry, say that one more time for me, Nicolle.
What does the campaign explain as the background or the reason for him taking so many cognitive tests and talking about the results of them as often as he does?
It's a good question, Nicolle. I don't have an answer for you on that. Donald Trump is really in control of his own message, and he brings these up often. Of course, a lot of it stemmed from when he was going toe-to-toe with President Biden. He wanted to try to make the case that he was in a better position cognitively than the current president. Now he is going up against a much younger current vice president who Donald Trump has called into question and is trying to, as we heard yesterday when he was on Fox, he questioned how is she beating him in some of these polls. How is she doing better than Joe Biden? And I think that gets to, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think it gets to, for him, it is us versus them, and for him, it's trying to strike that that contrast. For him, I don't think we're looking at a candidate who is naive to his age, and those who question whether somebody at that age can serve to the same capacity as somebody who is younger, like his Democratic rival.
Ron Hilliard, I know you're up against an event and some more reporting responsibilities. Thank you so much for starting us off, my friend.
Thanks, Nicolle.
I mean, Donnie, I'll let you, because you know him. I mean, I think that everything he says here in year 9 of covering him is a projection and a hapless and usually clunky effort at getting ahead of a perceived vulnerability. But, I mean, I didn't even play all of the times he talked about, you know, how to cognitive, if we could borrow a Sarah Cooperism. I mean, the amount of time he spends talking about his cognitive abilities is suspicious.
Well, we all know that what he talks about